the current PTA, it is still named Prevention of Terrorism Act, Temporary Provisions Act. It was meant to be just a piece of legislation that would be there only for 6 months and thereafter taken out. Unfortunately, this particular legislation, which has so many draconian provisions, have continued for 40 long years. It has seriously impacted on civil liberties in this country. People have been imprisoned without any probable evidence purely because of very puerile suspicions that have been arisen about them. This has destroyed many people's lives. People have been in remand without even a charge sheet being brought about for months on end and sometimes years on end. Right? So this has really caused a serious problem about civil liberties. So in this regard, I have been in several cabinets trying to introduce reforms. Reforms also came about because of the pressure of the international community. Our country stands to be scrutinized before the Human Rights Commission every year. Because ever since the war was concluded, we had undertaken to scrap the PTA. But continuously, successive governments have deliberately failed to fulfill the pledge they gave to the international community about not only repeal of the PTA. At least the minimum could be to replace it with another more humane piece of legislation. I have been appeared in the Supreme Court personally in challenging the different incarnations of the replacement to the PTA. I have made use of that opportunity, has challenged the bill several times. Judgments have been given holding many provisions to be unconstitutional. Right? But continuously, governments have not been forthcoming to make those changes and introduce the bills as required by the Supreme Court. The issue ends there. That's the whole problem. But in the meantime, let me also say something that is happening now. In our fight to get rid of the PTA, my colleague, Mr. Sumandaran, many others have been appearing with us in the Supreme Court, arguing in Parliament several times. One of our important allies in this battle is the current President, Anwar Kumar Dissanayake. It is very unfortunate that his spokesman from the Presidential Secretariat, he was one of those people who wanted the total repeal of the PTA. Now the government, the spokesman on his behalf, has come on board and says, well, we are not going to repeal it. We want to retain it, but we will make sure that no civil liberties will be impaired. This is a very lame excuse. There are several promises that are being broken. This is one such promise that our current president has already breached. Because he was in the forefront calling for its repeal. Right? And JVP has been at the receiving end of the PTA. Many of their own colleagues have suffered immensely because of this draconian piece of legislation. This kind of state repression, a repressive piece of legislation that curtails your liberty. Right? At the whim and fancy of those in power, you can be in remand for several months without even being produced before a magistrate. All of us know, right? You have a constitutional guarantee of against arbitrary arrest and detention, right? All of which is superseded by this piece of draconian legislation that should be totally wiped out from our legislative system. So that's my position. So we have been standing firm on that. This type of extraordinary piece of legislation that was brought to address a specific issue way back in the late 70s has continued unhindered because of the deliberate intransigence of the ruling class, because they used this legislation to protect their own regime, and it has never been used to suppress terror. It has, in the converse, it has only encouraged terror. I would dare say that. Thank you.